Good evening. I'm Yohanan Ben Zion, a voice crying in the wilderness, prophesying a technological New Jerusalem, and this is the techno-communism conversation. I'm going to talk about maybe one of the worst human beings alive, not because his intentions are more malign than other omnicidal fascists of the Western world, particularly the ringleader of that omnicidal capitalistic fascistic cult, the United States, but because his influence, this particular scam that he's running, is one of the most damaging. I would compare him to someone like Barack Obama. I had a friend who had a picture of Barack Obama hanging on their wall. Observed them to say one time that how much they disliked the far-right politics of another African American of a few years ago. It was in the news a lot, running for president and then involved in politics in other ways. Ben Carson, Dr. Ben Carson. They disliked Ben Carson. They loved Barack Obama. Those are the same person, right? Whether Barack Obama is the president or whether Ben Carson is the president, there's still $1 trillion a year military-industrial complex, the world's worst polluter, whose only real job on the world stage is protecting other super polluters, creating an inescapable regime of super pollution, the omnicide. This is a fascist country unlike any other that has ever existed. Other fascist countries have committed the highest of crimes, to be sure, but one thing that they did not achieve that the United States has managed to do with the other North Atlantic fascist powers is to cause the death of the entire species. And so when you look at someone like Donald Trump running for president again and compare him to Kamala Harris, you would say the same thing. These people are all far-right military industrialists and capitalists of the worst kind that has ever existed. And there should be made no distinction between them, except that perhaps someone like Barack Obama, his job was to pretend to be a socialistic sort of person, or an inspirational reformer, some kind of populist figure, but in actuality doing what the Democratic Party itself does, isolating potential movements, isolating even individual incidents within potential movements, and throwing cold water on them to stop them from turning into something that could benefit the working people of this country. He's one of the worst human beings that's ever lived, a war criminal just like every other, but a scammer well beyond the capacities of someone like Donald Trump, who is indeed a very polished charlatan of that kind. And I would put this person, Ray Kurzweil, in that category, more so since in the last 15 years he became the chief technical officer or effective chief technical officer of Google, because prior to that time he was a neoliberal capitalist, a true capitalist, not a fascist sympathizer, like most people on this continent, but a person who owned means of production. But he was not affiliated to the same degree with military-industrial abomination, this world's worst polluter. And when he came to be associated with Google, that was the case. Google has always been a military contractor. It's also a surveillance monstrosity unlike any other, quite unlike any other. There's others of that scale quite nearly. So most people, when they take exception to Ray Kurzweil, they take exception to, in years past particularly, they take exception to the idea of a technological singularity or an AI takeoff transforming the socio-political and economic landscapes I do not take exception to that idea. I'm also a tech accelerationist, but I believe that, like Barack Obama, Ray Kurzweil is um, uh, uh, does a great disservice, the highest disservice, to those aims with his devotion to financial capital and empire. And I'm going to talk a little bit about his new book, which is called The Singularity is Nearer, which I've read only excerpts from and quite a number of reviews of. I'll say that up front, but I have read all of his other major works, his book length works, and I'm familiar, some of them multiple times. Um, Not proud to say that I was a tech accelerationist just a few years ago, of a kind who was more inclined to believe in this trickle-down economics lie, not possessing the um, knowledge of scientific socialist thought and serious revolutionary thought to be able to reject this kind of trickery. And of my friend I mentioned, who was a Barack Obama fan, who disliked Ben Carson as a fascist, not recognizing that they're both effective fascists in a fascistic system. I think we have to be patient with people like this as much as we can, without being gaslit, um, which is the most common kind of behavior online. But in the real world, we must be patient with people like this, because this person who supports Barack Obama, I believe, probably does genuinely want to bring about a humane and sustainable world, and even a humane and sustainable economic system, upon which that world depends, but does not have the knowledge, the true working knowledge of our world to do that, as I myself admittedly was a few years ago. This is doubly true of new Africans and indigenous people of Turtle Island, because they are the rightful inhabitants of this continent. The indigenous people requiring little explanation there. The new Africans, their ancestors were brought here in bondage, and therefore are not colonizers in the same sense as other peoples are. And so by this revolutionary theory, these people have more revolutionary potential than other groups, and so we must work harder to see that they have the tools that they need to bring about their great destiny. I do not meet a lot of North American people who genuinely believe this. Just as a few years ago, less so today, when people would talk about the works of someone like Jay Sakai in his book Settlers, or a number of other books similarly critical of the European descended pig, they would reject that as not the spirit of camaraderie, comrade-like behavior. But the United States European majority, its majoritarian rule, is responsible for this world's worst crime in history, the omnicide. It's if these people were truly good, they would be fighting against this tooth and nail instead of upholding it in every way that they can get away with. And that essential principle is true of the treatment of people who are so-called left-leaning, who are European descended, similarly upholding apartheid and genocidal institutions of a variety of kinds, redlining, a prison industrial complex, all of the things that make the life expectancy of a native resident of a reservation in this country just over half the life expectancy of a European American person. This is not an accident. This is by design. It is no different than what had occurred in centuries past, when Columbus and his men took over an island and worked those native people to death, enslaved and worked them all to death. It's no different, only with more layers of plausible deniability in this vicious behavior, so that it is more consistent with a neo-colonial set of behaviors rather than a colonial set of behaviors. If this thinking about the systems of today, about the technocratic developments of today, about the technocratic potentials of tomorrow, if this thinking does not guide you, you are, my friend, a white supremacist, a European supremacist, just in a little bit of denial about that situation. Let's talk a little bit about Kurzweil and his utopian views. Ray Kurzweil is a genuinely gifted inventor, computer scientist, and engineer, and he is a person most associated with technological accelerationist futurism, perhaps. He is very wealthy, and he is a person who imagined that artificial general intelligence would arrive around the year 2029 in decades past, postulating that because advanced computing capacities seem to be doubling every year, that we would reach a point of so-called technological singularity, a steep AI takeoff, and this was the idea of artificial general intelligence was rejected when he first suggested this kind of idea, but it is not rejected so much today. In fact, many computer scientists, as Ray Kurzweil observes, now have less conservative estimates of the arrival of artificial general intelligence than he does, which he still puts it around 2029. So they would put it at within the next 5 years before that time. This idea is problematic for a variety of reasons that I will describe more in economic terms, but not least of those, it is problematic because of its reliance on capitalist realism. There was a country called Chile, still exists, of course, but Chile in 1971 started to be rather dramatically transformed by its head of state and the work of cyberneticians of note there, many Chilean cyberneticians, in conjunction, notable figures, in conjunction with Stafford Beer, a pioneering cybernetician, and they worked together to turn Chile's economy into a technological planned economy. A staggering achievement had it been accomplished, and it was well on its way to being accomplished using a rudimentary technology by the standards of even that day, but particularly of today, telex machines, in a quite ingenious a set of methods for running the economy of Chile. The fascist United States and the fascist North Atlantic powers did not want to see this AI takeoff occur, nor did they still really want to see it occur. They only want to remain competitive in a landscape where it might occur in spite of them. And they did not want to see the public imagination transformed in the way that it was transformed in the 1920s with the emergence of the first scientific socialist state, the USSR, which made people believe that it was possible to run a country with a public health service, a good thing, a housing authority guaranteeing a home to everyone, a good thing, jobs programs, a good thing, all problems which the lack of problems which capitalists, liberals, and other swine wring their hands and pretend that they cannot solve when they could easily solve them by becoming scientific socialists and building scientific socialist institutions. This is a cottage industry, pretending that you can't fix a problem, but really this capitalist realist limitation of your thinking is itself the problem. And that is the issue with someone like Ray Kurzweil framing artificial general intelligence, something which would have occurred, I believe, by around the year 2000 in this world where the Chilean technological plant economy had been allowed to flourish instead of being overthrown by Augusto Pinochet, funded by the fascist United States. Capitalistic technologists who talk about artificial general intelligence as something that would not have occurred in a slightly better world under more favorable socialistic conditions, and can only occur through capitalistic research and development and militaristic development. These people are deranged or liars, mostly a combination of both. And that is the sort of person that Ray Kurzweil is. And so this liberal capitalistic perspective of his does paint a pretty picture of a future shaped by this intelligence explosion, where private corporations begin to take on a better and better roles than they currently do, and the military-industrial complex becomes a cleaner and less ugly thing, not the thing described in Mr. Smith's work, Endless Holocausts, that's responsible for 300 million deaths, murders in the modern era. That's the number of murders that lies at the feet of the fascist United States, mostly in anti-communist wars and wars of theft. But somehow that will cease to be the case in this pretty picture that's painted of an intelligence explosion. My contention is that the only way to see that this intelligence explosion, this AI takeoff, benefits humankind is to use it to build an economic system that is truly humane and sustainable, and is the necessary precondition for a humane and sustainable world. This is a point on which all technologists are willfully obtuse. All Western technologists, almost to a man, are willfully obtuse on this point. They will tell you that an intelligence explosion, an AI takeoff, a technological singularity will transform your world, wonders to behold beyond imagining, as I like to say, but somehow that it's not possible for any of those wonders to be changing the economic system to one that is not actively destroying the planet in such a way that human beings will no longer be able to live on it. That is a scam. These people are scammers. They are dogs of the worst kind, bootlicking, disgusting dogs of the worst kind, fascist pigs of the worst kind. The fact they don't see themselves as such matters very little relative to the impact that they have on our species and our planet. And so this conversation analyzes Kurzweil's ideas, contrasting them with the more correct revolutionary framework in thinking of cybernetic socialism and its emphasis on a genuine representation, a representative control of advanced computing for the benefit of all through the methods that I've described as the AI agentariat or AI agentic class, the building of a proxy hive mind, which we could begin now, using specially tailored open source large language models and crafting them into a highly automated work group that's able to do more work than individuals of a similar number would be able to do in a less collectivized form. Kurzweil's false utopia, it's technological acceleration, but within these unsustainable and inhumane power structures, a recipe for disaster. And so his sham techno-optimism rests on a belief which is sound, in most respects in the exponential or near exponential growth of computing power, as embodied, as I alluded to, by what's known as Moore's Law, the doubling every year of computing capacities. And this advancement, he has argued, I believe correctly, will culminate in artificial general intelligence by 2029 and a technological singularity by 2045. The question is that technological singularity going to be something that occurs with 8 billion plus people on Earth living happily, or is it something of a more dystopian kind, the track that we were on, where this military-industrial abomination and financial mega corporations continue to exist, is one where we are closer to that razor's edge of annihilation or near annihilation, and so we must build things in defiance of these unsustainable institutions. But this moment in 2045 of technological transcendence, it promises wonders to behold beyond imagining, a merging of human and machine intelligence, dramatically extended, if not nearly indefinite lifespan through longevity escape velocity, and a transformation of human civilization which we would not be able to anticipate. This is why this is referred to as a singularity, because it's a moment where we cannot see over this horizon of change. This narrative glosses over the great danger that we are in because of the capitalistic technological acceleration and the capitalistic fascistic institutions themselves within this existing U.S. dominant socioeconomic system. That power may be on the wane, but the danger of that power has not been curtailed nearly enough. We, by 2029, there is another event which is very, very likely to occur. We will see, according to every climate scientist, runaway overheating caused by these same capitalists. Capitalist climate apocalypse, runaway overheating of our planet, wherein the oven will turn on and you will be cooked alive like a lobster in a pot. As with each passing decade, this Earth grows dramatically warmer until perhaps very few or no humans, including billionaires, are able to live. So we must, by any means necessary, stop this from happening. And that requires, I believe, that we use advanced computing, the most powerful revolutionary tool that has ever existed, correctly, to build institutions more powerful than this military-industrial abomination, more powerful than the mega corporation, and crush them to dust. Ray Kurzweil will not do that. Ray Kurzweil is a con man, selling people a false hope in a system that is patently on its face unsustainable, and somehow making them forget that this is the case. And so this is an exacerbation of the capitalist climate apocalypse. It's the exacerbation of the inequalities which have contributed to it. It's a concentrating of power in the hands of a few fascists, and the pretense that somehow that will alleviate the problems of the concentration of power in the hands of fascists. It's an absurdity. I've said this before and I'll say it again. You might have met some stupid fucking people in your life, but you have not met people as stupid as transhumanists. I guarantee you that. I sometimes share this artwork. It's a political compass, and it describes these four corners. Up here in the topmost corner, outside of the realm of technical possibility, above the most collective-minded people are the hive mind collectivists. They are outside of the realm of technological possibility by the standards of 2024, because for them to exist as a political entity, there would have to be the prospect, the real possibility of a technologically mediated telepathy that could allow for a hive mind to exist. These hive mind collectivists may come into existence soon, and I hope so, but they cannot exist by the standards of today. These are people who are more communist, perhaps in a certain limited sense, than any communist who has ever existed. Those people are the real transhumanists. And then down here at the bottom of this garbage heap are the people who call themselves transhumanists, people who have far more in common with pieces of shit like Donald Trump or 100 other climate villains and war criminals of different kinds. So these are pseudo-transhumanists. There's virtually no real transhumanists. Cybernetic socialists view with skepticism Kurzweil's vision, because we recognize that the potential for advanced computing to revolutionize society is real, but we are wary of this confidence trick where those advancements are micromanaged by the fascistic ruling elites and at the continued expense, and dramatically more so, of the great masses. So this is a core difference between this TESCREAL type ideology and the scientific cybernetic socialist ideology. Kurzweil's advanced computing is a tool for corporate aggrandizement and individualistic action, and it can only lead to further problems caused by this failure of imagination, further environmental degradation, further social unrest, and cruelty and inequality. I have talked on this channel many times, including quite recently, about a book of names, an idea that I would like to see associated with revolutionary cybernetic socialism. It's a listing of all human beings living on this planet and a ranking of their culpability in capitalism's climate apocalypse, and a call to arms to hold them responsible for this environmental destruction, a mechanism by which we can end the ecocidal corporation and the ravages of private wealth. And a truly good advanced computing paradigm stands in contrast to these entities that will always prioritize profit and the self-preservation of financial capital over environmental sustainability, accelerating the climate crisis even as they pretend to try to fix it, by and large, only offering greenwashing lies rather than real solutions. The solutions to the climate crisis are not in creating new sectors or technological fixes along the lines of carbon capture and bioremediation. The solutions are ending the ecocidal sectors, the financial capital run abominations causing this. We can quite nearly end fossil fuel consumption tomorrow. We could maintain the skeleton crew of some fossil fuel consumption to ensure that there is not supply chain collapse. We can end military-industrial complexes tomorrow if the people rise up against them, and we can end what is, by some estimates, by some real studies, 51% of the cause of capitalism's climate apocalypse, livestock systems, or systematized animal product consumption. And if we were to do these three things, we would live in a sustainable world. But these far-right con artists that pass themselves off as technologists today have no interest in any of this. They have no interest in reining in the terrorism, the environmental terrorism of financial capital, but only in crafting narratives that uphold it while seeming to change the narrative, flip the script towards something good. It's not something good, not in the slightest. The advanced computing paradigms under the cybernetic socialist development would be tools for the collective good, would be in a position to do those things, tackling climate change and forever installing industrial capacities and sectors that would be sustainable, optimizing resource allocation in ways that are not currently possible, methods that I've described at great length in describing the proxy hive mind of the AI agentariat, and overall fostering global cooperation and ushering in a world of international peace and goodwill. The AI agentariat is a class of individuals who work alongside highly insightful and powerful AI agents, and play a crucial role in this revolution. I do not think that there is much of a path to sustainability in the 5 years we have left before the oven turns on, that is, runaway overheating, leading to the near extinction or extinction of human beings. I do not see much of a path to this, to avoiding these problems outside of the use of powerful AI agents in this collectivized form. It's possible, eminently possible, that revolution could occur in some other contexts that has nothing to do with advanced technology, but I see this as the most probable means to seeing that billions, if not all, of human beings do not die in the decades to come. And further, by democratizing access to advanced computing and fostering this international culture of collaboration, cybernetic socialism will ensure the benefits of advanced computing are shared by all in perpetuity, and not just a select few, and with a few bells and whistles for other silly Westerners to be impressed by, that have no real effect on the material conditions of the masses, as is the case presently, as is the case in this Kurzweilian worldview. Unlike Kurzweil's rather confusing singularitarian points about technological transcendence, cybernetic socialists envision a pathway, a process of true coevolution between humans and advanced systems which they would control. This collaboration will lead to the development of increasingly sophisticated advanced computing tools that can be used to address some of humanity's most pressing challenges, as I already alluded to, ending capitalism's climate apocalypse, ending global privation, instability, and inequality. And I think an important part of that really is using advanced technology and advanced computing to bring about a healthcare revolution. For a number of years, decades even, tech organizations in the United States have understood that this AI takeoff, this intelligence explosion, could lead to biomedical breakthroughs in such number that we would reach this theorized longevity escape velocity, where people would effectively be aging in reverse because the quality of care had so much improved. Unfortunately for you, almost all of these people who are actively interested in or working in some sense, ostensibly working toward longevity escape velocity, these are people who are far-right capitalists, neoliberals, people who uphold the present for-profit death care system of the United States that kills 100,000 people a year. And so their designs on using these biomedical breakthroughs driven by advanced computing and advanced technology to bring about longevity escape velocity. That is a longevity escape velocity for billionaires, not a longevity escape velocity for actual human beings. And that is a problem. These people are scammers, just like Ray Kurzweil is a scammer, just like literally all of these TESCREAL people are scammers. Nevertheless, like this technological singularity, this longevity singularity, is a realistic prospect in our time if we are willing to fight for and build the institutions of a humane and sustainable economic system that would allow for this to become a possibility. This requires building not just a public health service, but a public health service that is able to socialize these costs and thus treat not just other diseases, but the ravages of age as a reversible condition. Both Ray Kurzweil and believers in his ideology and cybernetic socialism recognize the importance of advanced computing, but cybernetic socialists prioritize the development of truly ethical frameworks that do not sacrifice human beings on the altar of financial capital, and thus are able to build safety protocols not just in name only, but truly safe features in advanced computing that allows for alignment with human values. By and large, people who talk about AI alignment are people operating under this set of lies of capitalist realism, under this set of lies of upholding the military-industrial abomination. And so it is not possible for them to have a serious analysis of these problems or contribute in any way to solving them when they are devoted to a fundamental cause of those problems. But overall, transparency and representative control like that of the proxy hive mind are paramount in preventing the emergence of some kind of super intelligent effects that pose an existential risk to humankind. The existential risk is very real, even though almost all of the Westerners who talk about advanced computing as an existential risk do not have the depth of understanding of the world around them to actually contribute to stopping the problem. But if you make a study of cybernetic socialism, but more importantly, if you come together with other people and create a cybernetic socialist force, then we will be in a position to see that this existential risk and other pressing existential risks, most notably that of nuclear warfare and capitalism's climate apocalypse, never again plague humankind. The path we choose regarding advanced computing development will have profound ramifications for the future of humankind. Ray Kurzweil's pack of lies, while at first glance quite dazzling, do exacerbate these inequalities and environmental degradations. Cybernetic socialism, then, is the only real choice. It offers a truly equitable and sustainable future where advanced computing is a tool for the empowerment of the masses and a progress of humankind more consistent with that of the so-called technological singularity. This future hinges on organization, militant action and agitation, but also an openness to collaboration and an open dialogue and a commitment to developing advanced computing, including a deep commitment to developing open source advanced computing technology, all to serve the needs of the many and not just a handful of fascists. I'll leave you with these words that I like to repeat. The artificial intelligence singularity is nigh, and wonders to behold beyond imagining. And on that fateful day you will rise, and all humankind will become as one, for techno-communism will win.